You know what's one of the most empowering things you can do? It's to cut people off. Many of you, you're wasting so much time on people who don't even deserve your time. They don't even deserve your energy or efforts. They don't deserve anything that you're putting into them. And that's why no matter what or how much you do, it's never good enough, it never changes anything, it never benefits you. Because they're not deserving of you. And it's why the most empowering thing you can do is to cut them off, to get rid of them. Because honestly, they're just holding you back. They're just weighing you down. They're not adding anything positive to you. They're negative. They're only taking away. They're devaluing you. They're bringing you down. They're bringing you away from a level where you should be at, from what you should be doing. But many of you don't even see it. And the reason why is because they manipulate you. And they manipulate you because they know they're not good enough to be around you. That's why they come in with a mask. And that's why they gaslight you. Because they know that anyone of a sane, logical, sound mind would not want to be around them. So they know that in order for them to secure you to where you're then there to provide something to them, they have to manipulate you and they have to gaslight you. They know that's the only way to keep you down. That's the only way to keep you stuck. That's the only way that you're ever going to have anything to do with them. Because otherwise, you're going to go off on your own and you're going to build your own life outside of them. And things are going to be so much better for you without them. And they are fully aware of that. That's why they go above and beyond to keep you down, to keep you stuck. Because they recognize that. And they don't want you to recognize your value, because if you do, you're not going to want anything to do with them. You're going to be on to something better, something more. And that's the whole point, that's the whole purpose of why they've got to keep you stuck. So that you don't realize just how much greater you are than them. Because they already see it. They may never tell you that, but they already see it. And it shows in their actions, it shows in how they're treating you. It's why when they get around you, they manipulate you. They give you a false character. They act like they're perfect, they're ideal for you. They do that for a reason, because they recognize your value. They recognize that they have to adjust themselves in order to be around you. And then when you start to catch on to what you're actually dealing with, because someone who's not even on your level, then that's when they begin devaluing you. They start taking value away from you. They put you down. And then they triangulate you with other people. They try to make you feel inferior because, of course, as a good person that you are, an empath, a chosen one, of course you're going to self-reflect. Of course you're going to wonder, consider if you could do more or be more. Of course you're going to try to be better. But the problem is you're trying to be better for something that is nowhere near good enough for you. So it doesn't matter how great you are, it doesn't matter how much you try to do for them, it's not going to change anything, it's not going to make anything better. Essentially, it's like you're trying to polish a turd in them. You're doing everything you can to clean them up, to make things better for them, to make things more comfortable. But no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough, because you're still just trying to polish a turd. And no matter what you do, it's still just going to be what it's going to be. It's not going to be anything better. It's not going to grow into something more. And this is why they then move on to the gaslighting. They try to get you to doubt your own memory, perception, and sanity. They try to get you to see yourself differently, because they don't want you to see things as they actually are. And think about that. If things were really in their favor, if they were really as great as what they're portraying themselves to be, and you're really that bad, then what's the need for the manipulation and the gaslighting? There wouldn't be any need for that. The whole purpose of it is because they know that you're far too valuable to even be around them. And when you're aware of it, when you recognize it, you're going to realize just how empowering it is for you to cut them off, for you to get rid of them. And honestly, that's one of the best things that you can do. Because all of these problems that you've got result from you just being around them. All of this confusion, all of these health problems, all of this anxiety, depression, stress, all of these problems that you think that you have, and financially as well, all of these issues would just fade away if you would just move away from them. Things would gradually get a lot better for you, and they know that. And that's why they come around you. That's why they gaslight you. It's why they trauma bond you for that reason. That's why they bring all of this trauma into your life. That's why they dump their trauma onto you. It's designed to keep you stuck. It's designed to prevent you from growing. Because they know exactly what you're going to grow into. They know that you're going to grow into something better, into something more. Otherwise, with the narrative that they've created against you, if they really thought that you were that bad, they would just leave you to it. They wouldn't intervene. Because as the old saying goes, if you give someone enough rope, they will hang themselves. So if they really think that you're that bad, they would anticipate that that's what you're going to do without their intervention. This isn't because of something that you're not, or because of something that you don't have. It's because of how great you are, and because of everything that you do have. And that's what the issue is. That's what they can't stand. That's why they have to manipulate you. That's why they devalue you, they rob you, they gaslight you. That's why they do all of those things. And that's another thing as well, because if someone isn't that great, then why do you need anything from them? Why do they need your time, your energy, your money, your resources? Why would they want anything from you? Because I don't know about you, but I know myself that if someone is such a bad person, if they're really that bad, I wouldn't want anything from them. I wouldn't want anything to do with them. I especially wouldn't want their money, because that's just blood money. It likely wasn't obtained the right way. They likely exploited people for that. And that's what many of you don't recognize when you're dealing with these types of people. You don't see that everything you think that you need from them, they're just giving you a reflection of yourself. They're just mirroring you back to you. And remember the type of person that you were before you got involved with them. You were self-sufficient, you were independent. So really, as a chosen one, an empath, all you really want is yourself. All you really want is what's yours. And that's what this video is about. That's why the most empowering thing you can do is to cut these people off. Get rid of them. Cut them out of your life. And watch as you begin to grow. Watch as things begin to get better for you. Now that's the real test. That's the real test, to know what's what. To know who's who in that situation. Because if you both go your separate ways, or however many people you may be dealing with, if you go your separate ways, you're going to see that you become far happier, far more successful, potentially than all of them put together. Because that's just it. You never needed them. They needed you. They needed your time, your energy, your money. They needed everything that you had to provide. That you gave out of the goodness of your heart. You wanted to be there for them. You wanted to help them. But then once they got around you, they were acting like they're too good for you. Because then you already upgraded them. You already upgraded their lives. And that's the mentality that a lot of these people have. They get around a strong, powerful person, and once you've upgraded them, once you've lifted them up, now suddenly they're the best thing since sliced bread, just because they've got around you. But that's your light. That's the result of what you've given to them. That's why they're now acting in that way. Because you're like the sun. And they're the moon. They're just reflecting your light. The only problem is they can't reflect it back to you. They can't reciprocate what you're putting out. And honestly, any time that it looks like that, they can. Any time that it looks like you're getting something back, you're actually not. They're just taking even more from you. Because that's all that they can do. They are energy vampires. They are parasites. They are leeches. All they can do is drain you. All they can do is manipulate you. They can only give you an illusion. They have nothing else to give. And their main concern is that you believe in it. They're constantly seeking your approval, your validation. Because that's just what fake people are like. But you will notice the difference when you cut them off, when you leave them behind. You will see how things begin to get a lot better for you. But while you're around them, all they can do is keep you down. All they can do is leave you stuck. And it will affect your health. It will affect your state of mind. Your happiness. It will affect all of that. because you're taking care of them, but nobody's taking care of you. And you haven't even got the time or energy to take care of yourself, of what you need. Because while you may be a chosen one, an empath, the reality is that you're still human. You still have needs. And you have to fulfill those needs. You have to take care of your mental and emotional health. Otherwise, it's going to begin to affect you. It's going to have a negative impact on your life. And when that happens, they're not going to be there for you. If anything, they're just going to blame you because now you're in a state where you're no longer able to provide to them. And they're going to look at it as though you're fake, as though something is wrong with you. Because now you can't do what you said you were going to do before. There's not going to be any mercy. There's not going to be any compassion. These types of people, they expect you to give up your life. Give up everything you have just to keep them going, just to keep them alive. They expect you to be their sustenance because they're not enough to take care of themselves. And that's why they need you. That's why they've got to have you around. Because otherwise, without you, what are they going to do? They can't even take care of themselves. They can't even regulate their own emotions. And that's why they depend on you. And by them depending on you, it disempowers you. It makes you feel weak. It leaves you in a position where you are unable to take care of yourself. You can no longer provide for yourself the energy and the sustenance that you need, because now you're being depleted. They need so much from you, but they have so little to give to you. And they can't even be in reality with you. They can't let you know your worth. They can't let you know just how great you are. All the while they're depleting you. Because that's just it. If you knew, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. You wouldn't want to be around them, because what would be the point? If you knew that this person is no good for you and they're just depleting you, what would be the point in that? Because of course, our main priority in life should be our own self-preservation. We must be able to preserve ourselves. And that's their main focus. They will preserve themselves at the expense of your health. Because they can't preserve themselves on their own. They don't have the ability to do that. So they will suck off your life force. They will take everything that you have to give in order to sustain themselves, which leaves you unable to take care of yourself. And it creates a real problem for you, simply because you got around them, because you let them into your life. You believed in their manipulations. You believed that it was something real. You thought that you were going to get something out of it. You thought that it was going to benefit you. You thought that there was going to be an equal exchange. Otherwise, you never would have got involved with that. And they know that as well. They understand a person's mentality is that, of course, you're going to give out, you're going to invest the time, knowing that you're going to get something back in return, that's going to benefit you in some way, and then you can further invest into them and they can further invest into you, and then together you can build a healthy, functional relationship. But these types of people, they're not evolved to function in that way. They haven't gotten to that point. Essentially, many of these people, and thinking about it, I didn't even want to say that because that's kind of an insult to them. But I was going to compare them to prehistoric humans. But for my research, even prehistoric humans were compassionate. Even they had empathy. So they're not even like Neanderthals. Even they were more evolved than these types of people. Because these types of people are parasites, they're leeches, they're bottom feeders. They are the lowest of the low. There's nothing lower than that. Than someone who has to feed off you in order to survive. And they have nothing to give back to you. Essentially, it's like you're dealing with a child. But even then, that's an insult to children. Because at least with a child, they have their innocence, their joy. They have a lot of good energy to bring to you. But these types of people, toxic people, narcissists, they have nothing to bring to you. They will deplete you of your energy. They will drain you completely. And in the end, they will blame you for that. They will just see it as though something is wrong with you. And this is why they're so dangerous to be around. Because they haven't evolved. And the only thing they're focused on is their own survival. So all they can think about is how they're going to get what they need. And this is why your validation, your approval is extremely important to them. And just to further have knowledge about that, look into some interrogations on YouTube where they interrogate narcissists and psychopaths, and you will see that narcissistic stare. The way that they just glare at the interrogators to see if they're buying it, to see if they believe in their story. Because then that's how they survive, that's how they get their needs met. It's from making people believe things that are not true. Otherwise, they wouldn't make it very far in life. Because the reality is that there's nothing to like about these people at all. Anything that you think is good about them, it's fake. They're not lovable. And that's the whole point about it, is that in their childhood, they felt unlovable. They felt like they weren't good enough. And that's why they abandoned their true self and created a false self. Because they recognize that as they are, no one is going to love them. No one is going to want anything to do with them. So then they create all of these different characters, where sometimes they're the victim, they're the hero, the martyr, the Samaritan. Or sometimes they let the mask slip and then they're a monster. Whatever gets them that significance that they crave. Because although they may not regret abandoning their true self, the reality is that now they feel like they don't exist. They feel like no one notices them, which is the opposite of what we have to deal with as chosen ones. It's like, no matter what we do, we can't get away from people. And you can try anything. It will only attract people to you more. It's like no matter what you do, you can't get rid of them. Now that's why I know, although many of you may read the title about how it's so empowering to cut people off, that's the thing, is getting rid of them is the difficult part. You try to walk away and it's like a dog humping your leg, and you just can't shake it off. And the reason for that is because you have so much value to give, and they want some of that. They may not be fully consciously aware of it, of exactly what they're doing, but that's what they want. That's why they come out around you. They want your energy, because your energy is so good. It's so powerful. It's so nourishing for them. It quite literally makes them feel alive. It makes them feel so good about themselves. To get your validation, your approval. And even though they're never really getting that, because from the beginning they're manipulating you, they're giving you a false character, and then they're devaluing you, they're gaslighting you, they're doing everything they have to do, triangulating you with other people. So none of that is even real. They're never actually getting your genuine, sincere approval of them. They're manipulating you, they're trauma bonding you, they're forcing it out of you. And if you were given the space to just behave in a natural way, they wouldn't be getting anything out of you. They wouldn't be getting the time of day. So this is what they have to do in order for them to survive. Because this is about survival. And without that, they suffer an ego death. And as we do too. Because they will beat it out of you. They will beat you down emotionally. They will crush your ego, your sense of self-importance, to where you feel like who you are, your authentic self, is not significant or relevant anymore. And that you just need to go along with them. You need to submit to their demands, their way of seeing things, their way in which they choose to live their lives. You just have to forget about your life and go along with them now. That's how they want you to see it. But honestly, that is the worst thing that you can do. Because you're meant to be so much more than that. And as I mentioned in yesterday's live video, it's essentially the same thing as in the movie Cinderella. They don't want you to know your worth. They don't want you to know that you're deserving of so much more than that. And that's why one of the main things they do is target your self-esteem. They try to get you to think less of yourself. But that's the thing though, because they get you to think less of yourself, and at the same time they're still there. And it's like, how does that make any sense? But then that's the thing that most people don't ever realize, is that contradiction of how they're targeting your self-esteem and they're making you feel like you're not as good as you actually are. But then at the same time, they're still there to reinforce that. And the reason why they do that is because it serves a purpose. It gets them what they want. And what they really want more than anything else in this world, is your validation. And honestly, that's more important to them than anything else. That's more important to them than money. Because you're one of the few people in this world who is still connected to reality. Most people are not, and they know that. They know that most people are dumbed down. They know that most people are delusional. They're aware of that. But you're not. Because you are a chosen one. You are an empath. So you understand the state of things as they actually are. And that's why they manipulate you. That's why they gaslight you for that reason. They don't have to gaslight anyone else because everyone else, they're already stuck. And that's why they just see you as the problem. But many of these people, they're also gaslighting themselves. They're not consciously aware of how they see things and why they do the things that they do. They're not consciously aware of that. But that's something that you need to do. That's something that you need to recognize. If you're finding this video helpful so far, give me a thumbs up down below. Thank you. My throat is getting a bit dry out in this heat. Just going to take a sip of water. But yeah, honestly, I know what it's like. I know what it feels. When you're around these types of people, it affects your health. It affects your peace of mind. It makes you feel miserable. It makes you feel anxious. It makes you feel depressed. It makes you feel like something is wrong with you. It makes you feel like you're not good enough. It makes you feel like you're bad, you're crazy, you're wrong. But once you get away from them, once you have some time to focus back on yourself, you begin to realize that there was nothing wrong with you. If there was anything wrong, it's that you were around them. And you can look at the other people in their lives as well. They are the common denominator. They're the reason why everything's wrong with everyone. They're the reason why everyone's so sick. Because they're around them. And it's how you felt, how you still feel by being around them. It's why you don't feel so good about yourself. It affects your self-esteem, your self-belief. When if anyone needs to feel confident, it's you more than anyone else. Because honestly, you have no idea how great you actually are. And what you can build for yourself in the future if you just cut off these toxic people. Because they're taking away your energy. They're taking away your sense of reality because they are not connected to reality. And that's why when you get around them, they just exhaust you. You feel so tired because as a trauma response, they are living in a fantasy world. They cannot cope with reality. And how do we know that they can't cope with reality? Well, I'll tell you this. Can you go up to one of these types of people and can you tell them the truth? Can you tell them what's wrong? Can you tell them what you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're experiencing? Can you state the facts? And how do they respond if you do that? Do they lash out at you? Do they lose their minds? That's how you know that they're not connected to reality. They're in a fantasy world as a trauma response. Because otherwise a person can respond to facts, they can accept facts. They just cannot accept reality. Now that's why it's so draining. That's why it just sucks the life out of you. Because they just can't accept that. And that's why the best thing that you can do, the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself is to cut these people off, to get away from them. Because honestly, you will feel so much better when you do that. But what won't feel better for you is if you remain around them, because all that's going to happen is they're going to manipulate you, they're going to gaslight you, they're going to trauma bond you, and they're going to leave you chasing after this proverbial carrot that doesn't even exist, never existed, and never will. Not in them anyway, but it exists in you. It exists in you, it always did, and it always will. Because you are that person, you are the chosen one, you are the empath, and that is why they gravitate towards you. That is why they can't get enough of you. That's why they're all over you like a pack of dogs chasing after a piece of meat. As I always say, no one wants to be around a pile of crap. No one wants to be anywhere near that. Because it stinks. It's toxic, it's harmful. But what about treasures, gold? People want to be around that. People want to get around that because that has value. That can give something to them. It can make them feel better. It can validate them. It can bring them nourishment. So of course they want to get around that. They want to be all over it. They can't get enough of it. And that's because of your value. And where does your value come from? What makes you so valuable? What gives you so much energy? That is your authenticity. That comes from you being connected to yourself. That comes from you being connected to reality. It comes from you accepting the state of how things actually are. Even if you don't like it, even if it doesn't feel good to you, you still accept it. Because that's what healing is. It all starts with your acceptance. If you can't even accept it, how can you change it? How can anything improve? How can anything get better? It begins with your acceptance. Acceptance, that's high vibrational. It might not feel good initially, but in time it will bring you happiness, it will bring you peace of mind. And from acceptance comes love. You must first accept yourself, accept the world, and then you can love. And this is why these people are so hateful, so envious, so greedy. It's because they have a lack of acceptance. They don't want to accept things as they actually are, and instead they choose to remain in denial. They don't accept themselves, so they cannot accept you. And that is why they can never love you. And I know some of you may be watching this and you may be thinking, Narc Survivor, I don't want them to love me anyway. But that's just it. Because the odds are they probably never will. Because they don't even love themselves, they don't even accept themselves. So that's not something you're ever going to have to worry about anyway. But when you deal with these types of people, the best thing that you can do is to love them from afar. You can show them compassion. You don't have to forgive them. You don't have to forget the things that they did to you. But hold on to that compassion. Hold on to that love. Because that love is what gives you your freedom. That love sets you free from the confinement, the hold that they placed on you. The problem is that they teach you a different idea of love. from what they learned in their childhood. To them, love is dysfunctional. Love is just about taking, invading, infiltrating, just doing whatever they have to do to get what they need. That's their idea of love. But how can it be love if their love is harming you? And if something's harming you, what do? You've got to leave it alone. You've got to get rid of it. Just as if you're allergic to a certain type of food, you probably shouldn't keep eating it. Because if you do, it's going to continue harming you. And I myself, as a vegan, as someone who doesn't eat meat, I'm against harm. I'm against pain. And while that's all well and good, before we even look at that and the harm that we're causing to other animals, we first got to start with ourselves and look at the harm that's being caused to us. Because how can you worry about the harm that's being caused to something else when there's still harm being caused to yourself? You've got to deal with that first. And that's why it's so important to have boundaries, to practice self-love. And honestly, I imagine for most of these people, just the word boundaries is a huge trigger for them. That's probably one of the most triggering things you can say to them, just that word, boundaries, or the word no. Because to them, boundaries, no, that's like life or death to them. That means you're cutting off their supply. That means that they don't get to survive. Because how can they survive if you don't let them in? If you don't give them a safe space in your home? But that's the problem. We don't want to let them in because we know that if we do, all they're going to do is destroy everything. And this is the dilemma that we find ourselves in. These are the types of problems that we have to deal with. Because they want to be safe, they want to be comfortable. They want us to take care of them. The problem is that they don't take care of us. The problem is that they don't take care of the things that we choose to give to them. We give them a safe, comfortable space in our lives, and how do they treat us? How do they treat the things that we gifted them? They destroy it, they ruin it. They ruin us. And this is why the most empowering thing that you can do is to cut them off, get rid of them, keep them out of your life. And don't ever let them back in. Don't ever let them back into your life ever again. Because that is the best thing that you can do for yourself. By doing that, you will be free. Your health will return, your finances, your happiness. Because then, instead of giving all of your time, energy, money and resources to them, which doesn't do anything for them anyway, they still remain the same. They don't get any better. So instead of doing that, you can then invest all of that into yourself and watch as you begin to grow. Watch as things begin to get better for you. But I can promise you, things are not going to get better for them. Because they're never going to look at themselves. They're never going to realize that they are the problem. That's never going to happen for them. But that's something that we're going to do. We're not going to blame ourselves for everything, but we will take personal responsibility. Because that is how we learn, that is how we grow. That is how we become so much better than we ever would have been by being around them. That is how we do that. But nothing is ever going to get better around these types of people. Nothing is ever going to get better. Nothing is ever going to grow. Nothing is ever going to change. Because they are not ever going to look at themselves. They're never going to look at themselves in the mirror. They're never going to see just how bad, how toxic, how crazy they actually are. They're never going to see that. They're always going to blame you. It's always going to be your fault. And that's a big part of the problem as well, is how they blame one person for everything. As though one person could just change everything in the world. That doesn't make any sense. And as though one person is to blame for everything that went wrong. But often the reason why they do that is because that's how they feel about themselves. And that's how you know that this person that you're dealing with is not connected to reality, because they can't accept fault or blame for anything. In their minds, nothing is their fault. In their minds, there is no problem with them. In their minds, they have no issue. In their minds, they're perfectly fine. And this is why nothing ever grows. This is why you can't build anything with them. Because in their minds, no matter what happens, no matter what goes wrong, it's never their fault. And this is why the longer you spend around them, the worse it gets. Those of you who got involved with someone and it was really bad early on, you should thank the stars for that. Because honestly, what usually happens is you get involved with them and at first they seem really great. It seems like there's nothing wrong with them. And then the longer you're around them, the worse things get. Because that's typically what happens, is that it gets worse with time. And then the worst part about it is that it's like you're the only one who sees it, and everyone else thinks what a wonderful person they are. Everyone else can't see anything wrong with them. And that could be a big part of the problem sometimes, because you just wish that everyone could see what you see. But unfortunately, it's like no one else does. Everyone else is seeing something else, because they're not seeing what they're doing to you behind closed doors. All they're seeing is how you're responding, how you're reacting to it. And of course, that's going to make you look like the problem, because crazy makes you crazy. You get around a crazy person for long enough, how are you meant to stay sane? How are you meant to stay sound, sensible, and logical? Of course, no one can. That's like going into a pool and trying to stay dry. Of course, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna defy the laws of physics. There's just no possible way. Get around a toxic, crazy person, it's gonna rub off on you. It's gonna make you feel the same way. Just as when people get onto my videos, they watch what I do. I've changed so many people's lives already. I've potentially got millions of people around the world out of toxic relationships. I may have prevented thousands of suicides. Because the people that you get around, these things rub off on you, the energy that they have. And no matter how much they mutilate you, no matter how much they gaslight you, that is one thing that they cannot change. Your intuition, your feelings after dealing with them. Because honestly, if you're around a normal, sane, functional, logical person, that's going to feel good. When you're around toxic people, narcissists, psychopaths, you're not going to feel good after dealing with that. If you did feel good after dealing with people like that, then that would be a problem. Because you should not feel good after dealing with those types of people. But that's the thing, because they do feel good when they're around each other. It's like this shared fantasy, this mass psychosis. It's a form of escapism for all of them. Because they're all just as crazy as each other. And then when they see the odd one out, they see the one who isn't validating them, isn't going along with it, they want to pull you into that. They want to make you just as crazy as them. And that's exactly how you will feel after dealing with them. It won't feel normal for you. It won't feel good. And you should thank the stars for that. Because you should not feel good when you are around these types of people. That should not be a good feeling for you at all. But what is a good feeling is coming back to yourself. Initially, it may feel lonely when you're having to isolate yourself, you're having to cut off people. And that's why it's good to have a support network. And we got plenty of people on queue. Plenty of people who have been through it. They know what it's like. They had to deal with these types of people. And we're all moving forward together. We're all headed in the right direction. We're all coming back to rebuilding ourselves, our self-esteem, our self-confidence, our happiness. That's what we're all trying to do on Q. And together, yes, we will grow. Together we will feel better. Together we will realize that we are not alone. Because we have each other. And we have these shared interests. We want to feel better. We want to live happier lives. We want to restore our health, our finances, our confidence and self-belief in ourselves. We all want to do that together. And that's how this just works. And then that's also how it works for them as well, because it's like a bunch of crazy people who all want to go off and be crazy together. And then that's exactly what they do. The problem is when they see people like us, then it reveals to them that they're actually the ones who are crazy. And that's why they're so hypersensitive to criticism. They can't deal with any conflict or opposition. It's not that you're being aggressive towards them, just having a different opinion makes them extremely insecure, because their reality is like a house of cards. Whereas for us, it's not. And as many of you may have seen in the live chat, in the comments, I have to deal with potentially hundreds of haters and trolls every week, thousands of them every month. And that's just what you see in the live chat. So many more in real life. And despite that, I'm not becoming overly aggressive, because I'm secure in my reality. I believe in what I do. I believe that what I'm doing is right. But it's not like that for them. And that's why they always have to challenge and oppose you. They have to target your self-esteem and deliberately try to make you feel insecure, to destabilize you, to get you to withdraw from your position, because they're not so secure in theirs. And that's why they always have to disempower you. That's why they always have to bring you down. That's why the best thing that you can do is just to get away from them, cut them off. Easier said than done, I know. It can be difficult with some of them. But it's really what you have to do. You've got to make an exit plan. You've got to speak to a therapist or coach. Start taking action. Start thinking about how you're going to do it. And as you can see, I'm in a different country right now. I don't just talk about it, I live it. I've been doing it for the last maybe 6 years now, traveling the world. And of course, it follows me wherever I go. I always find toxic people. I can go to the middle of the jungle, top of a mountain. There's always going to be someone there. But the point is that I don't stop. I keep moving. I will never let myself remain around toxic people. And that's just what you have to do as well. Never let yourself remain around them. Never let yourself become like them. Because we are meant for something more. That's why we don't get on well with them. Because we're so much greater than that. We're meant for something more meaningful, more purposeful. But I've got to say though, it's getting really hot out here recently. I think it's 32 Celsius today. The other day was just 28. As you can see, you've got the sun shining there. And the towers. But yeah, let me know what you think about what I said in this one. Let me know your thoughts on the live chat. Let me know if you've got any questions. I will read them out and respond to them. I mean, you just got to think about it like this. To summarize it, if you're around people who are draining you, they're disempowering you, they're affecting your health, your memory, your perception, your sanity. They're just constantly taking from you, leeching off you, your time, your energy, your effort, your money and resources. Of course, that's not going to be any good for you. Of course, that's going to drain the life out of you. Of course, that's not going to help you to grow. It's not even going to help you to sustain yourself. And then again, because they lack self-awareness, all they're going to do is blame you. And that's why they really leave you with no other option than to cut them off and to get rid of them. That's really the only thing you can do. All right, now let's take a look at what people are saying to you. Dorothea Livingston says it's like a vampire sucking the life out of you. Grey rock. That's right. And actually, how I found out about narcissism initially, I first discovered this from typing in energy vampires on the YouTube search. And this was back in late 2017, early 2018. So I went from researching about energy vampires to then coming on to narcissism, because it directed me to one of Sam Vaknin's videos. As of course, back then, he was one of the very few people who was talking about this on YouTube. And then I got into it in mid 2018, and even then I was one of the first people to talk about it. I was one of the main people who brought it into the mainstream and potentially saved millions of people's lives around the world from getting into it at that time. And that's why, if you see many of my past videos, there are hundreds of thousands of views around the world. Together we've changed so many people's lives, prevented so many suicides, and especially for the next generation as well, we've already positioned things so that they can have a much better life. And we achieved that together. Together we helped to bring narcissism into the mainstream, or the awareness of it rather. CR says narcs want to transfer their own anger and hatred onto their target. Yeah, that's all they can do. They can only transfer the emotions that they have to give. They can only give you what they got. And that's how they got this this false image, where they act like they're moving on and they're so much happier without you. Because with their behaviours, of course, they know what they look like. They know how miserable they are. They know how they're not good company to be around. And they know that gets old, it gets boring. So then they got to switch it up, they got to try and bait you back in, but it's like, no, that's not who they are. What you saw initially, that's really them. They are miserable. They are always moody. They are always unhappy with life. And that's just what they're like. That's what they're always going to be. Hispanic Causing Panic says, because they're like, why is this person so authentic? Why can't I be like that? They want to be the center always. That's right, they want to be the center of attention, but without actually doing anything, without actually putting in the work. And, you know, I'd be the first to say, if someone actually put in the work, if someone actually put in the effort to achieve something, and then they did achieve something, I would be the first one there to applaud them, to celebrate it. Because that's great, it's great to make a difference. It's great to achieve something. But for them, they want all the applause without the work, without doing anything. Now that's completely different. And even if you have achieved something, it doesn't mean that everyone's attention has to be on you at all times. And many of us as chosen ones, we know what that's like. It's like sometimes we just want to be left alone. And I was always that type of person as a child. I was always just running away. I was running away, I was cycling on my bike. I was just walking alone at the beach. I never wanted to be around anyone. But these toxic people, they just chase after you, they just hunt you down. And then they label you as the problem. Because they just don't ever want to look at themselves. Michele Richter says, I wonder why the haters would even be watching this channel. That's it. I mean, they try and trauma bond you to them. But in fact, they're the ones who are trauma bonded to us. They're the ones who want to change us. They want us to be just like them. They want us to approve of this toxic garbage. This nonsense, this empty superficiality. And it's like, that's just it. It's empty, it's meaningless, it provides nothing of value to us. And in fact, it just strips us of our value, because we're giving to that, and we're getting nothing back. Rita Peters says it's hard to get over them. Yeah, it can be hard to get over them initially because they've manipulated you, they've devalued you, targeted your self-esteem, triangulated you, trauma bonded you. They've used all of these tactics to make you doubt yourself and to make you believe that there's something else. You just got to recognize that there is no value, there is no meaning, there is no purpose there. It's all fake. And when you fully realize that, it will help you to detach. And also, just start investing some time, some energy back into yourself. Watch how things begin to get better for you. It will make you realize that you never needed them. Mahar Karl has a genuine question about psychedelics. I've never actually tried psychedelics myself, but you know, in most countries that is illegal, and I don't really like to talk about illegal things or engage in them. However, what I can say is that I did overdose on some medication back at the end of 2017, and that was meant to be a suicide attempt, but luckily I didn't succeed in that. I went on to inspire millions of people around the world. But yeah, that was kind of like a psychedelic experience, and I remember it very vividly because I overdosed on some very powerful anti-anxiety, anti-depression medicine, and I started having hallucinations. I started to see these demons, and something I've never thought of or seen before. It just kind of came out of nowhere. These demons were just there. And then, as many of you may know if you watch my earlier videos, I then somehow managed to summon the strength to contact the authorities to help me for support. And then they came in and they just attacked me while I was down, because I was so drained after I took all that medication, and they just attacked me and left me in bruises coming from head to toe. And then they took me to the hospital. The police, they just sat around my bed overnight, and every few minutes they were just coughing very loudly to keep me awake, because they didn't want me to regain my strength. They wanted to keep me in that state. Even while I was just laying in bed in the hospital, trying to recover, I was on a drip machine. But yeah, there was just no empathy, no compassion there. And funny enough, now this is where it gets kind of interesting, because after I took the medication, after I overdosed, I had these hallucinations of demons. And also, when the authorities came in, I also saw them as demons as well. And I had never seen or just thought about or envisioned anything like this in my mind before. And it was just like out of nowhere, it was there. And funny enough, I've had these experiences in the past as well, where I would even see my parents as demons, and I would actually say that they are demons. And no one ever told me about this before. No one ever gave me these ideas. I just kind of constructed them on my own. But that's as close as it gets to a psychedelic experience for me. But what I would say is that the brain is a very powerful organ, and it doesn't mean that the brain is connected to anything outside of it. It is just all in the brain. And science can even show when you think you're having a spiritual experience, it shows the parts of the brain that lights up. However, we don't know what's outside of the brain. If you take the brain away, maybe what if you put someone else there? Who knows what we would then experience? So everything is kind of like this matrix. It's like this simulation. And as we know, when we break everything down in this universe, it's really just mathematics. So who really knows what is out there? There is no scientific evidence to suggest that any type of medicines or psychedelics will provide a spiritual experience to you. There's no evidence to suggest that. Although I will say that I did a detox back in 2018 before my channel became successful, and it was magnesium sulfate for anyone who wants to try it. And following that, I then became very successful on YouTube, to where I could then travel the world. And you may also notice that there was a great progression in the information that I could provide to you following that experience. And it is something that I am planning to try again. It's not too expensive to buy magnesium sulfates, and it's also legal as well, although you do need to take it in high quantities. But yeah, if you want to know more about that, just send me an email. It's something I highly recommend because it really changed my life. It changed everything about me, the way I think. Pecan Patty says, I always treated him with love and kindness. He never appreciated me or what I offered. No matter what you do for them, it's never going to be enough. They're never going to be satisfied. They have a void inside of them that can never be filled. And it's because their emotional needs were not fulfilled in their childhood. They didn't get the love that they needed. And I will say, the love that they deserved. Because every child deserves love. Every child deserves to have their emotional needs fulfilled. But unfortunately, they didn't get that. And that is the fault of their parents. And for that reason, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you give to them, it's never going to be enough, it's never going to make them happy, because that void is still there. So, with us, especially as chosen ones, as empaths, if someone pours into us, at some point we're going to feel satisfied, and then we're going to want to pour into someone else. The problem is that narcissists, they have a void that can never be filled. So you can pour into them as much as you want, it's not going to do anything. It's going to leak out. They're never going to be satisfied with you or with anyone else. And it's because they're not satisfied with themselves. Their emotional needs were never met as a child. So now they're very insecure, they're easily intimidated, they feel inferior, they don't feel enough for themselves. Michele Richer says, I'm glad that you've decided to stand in the light, spiritually speaking. Yeah, myself, I am still spiritual, although I am very much into science. But we don't know, what is actually out there outside of our brains. And even Elon Musk has said that there's a high chance that we could be in a simulation. And there's many people that have said that. So I still believe that there could be something out there at a higher level. And what gives me faith as well is that despite after everything I've been through, I'm still alive today. I'm still able to think clearly, and I've still got my sanity, and to me that is a miracle. And also, I mean, what's a miracle is that we are even here today. If you look at the number of miracles it took for us to get here, for the earth to be the way that it is, but then also, if you take a look at all of the things that have happened in the history of the earth, if you look at the state of the moon, it doesn't look too good. It suggests that it really is a miracle that we're here. And this universe is really far from an ideal system. It appears organized, but in a very disorganized way. It almost looks quite chaotic. But even then, I mean, even if there isn't a higher purpose to this, I believe that there is, but let's just say that there isn't. The science shows that there may still be an infinite number of multiverses, or of universes rather, and that there could be an infinite number of us and of different possibilities, which is kind of similar to Hinduism when you think about it, with reincarnation. So either way, I do believe that there is something after this life, and maybe we could be held accountable for what we've done in this life. just in case I choose to do the right thing. I choose to not abuse or harm people. Not that I would do that anyway, but just imagine if you lived your life the wrong way, and then after this life you have to face the consequences for all of that. Bird 3D says, why always so doom about gloom? Everything we talk about, it's really just in response to the current state of affairs in the world. It's really just what resonates with people as a result of what millions of people are experiencing around the world. And the problem is that most people just want to live a fake life. They want to pretend like everything's okay. And that's really a big part of the problem. The problem is the denial. So this content isn't really so much about doom and gloom. It's really about acceptance. Accepting things as they actually are. Which is actually very high vibrational. A lot of funny comments in here. You're getting bitten by something. A lot of interesting comments here. I am reading them. But there's a lot of strange comments too, and it's difficult to tell if it's genuine or if it's a troll. But yeah, that's one common theme that you will notice, and this is really what gives it away more than anything else. It's that the people who are fake, the people who are trolls, who are narcissists, they desperately crave your approval and validation. And that's why they're often the ones who have this clean image, and then for you, everything looks bad on you because you're truthful, you're honest. So that really gives it away more than anything else. Because otherwise it's like, all right, if you're fine, if you're okay, if nothing's wrong with you, then why do you need my validation so badly? And that could be the confusing part about it. It's how you know you're so much better off without them. And even they know that. That's why they're trying to convince you. Because honestly, if you know that you're that great, you don't have to convince anyone. It should be self-evident. And that's why for me, it's never been about me telling you how great I am, telling you how much I know or how much I've learned. For me, I just get on and I just say it, I just do it. But for them, it's all about convincing you. Because deep down, even they know that they're worthless. Even they know that they're no good. Well, that's why they're trying to convince you that they're not. And I'm not saying that nobody seeks validation. Of course they do, especially those who have just come out of a narcissistic relationship. Of course, you're going to be feeling very confused. You're going to want some closure, some understanding. But with these types of people, it's a completely different thing. It's really overboard. It's really over the top. But yeah, I'd love to stay on you longer, but I gotta go, I gotta get to the gym, I gotta work out, I gotta do some weights, I wanna get back into shape, improve my fitness, improve my health. That's what's most important to me, and it should be for you as well. Put the focus back on yourself, love yourself. Not just like what narcissists do, but actually love yourself for real. Put the focus on yourself. And recognize that if you're that great, if you're that wonderful, that's where your focus should be. It shouldn't be on anything else. And that's what I'd really like to finish on for this video. Putting the focus back on ourselves, building ourselves back up, regaining our health. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me on another Chosen Ones live video. Give me a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate through my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. Hit that subscribe button down below and click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again in the future. And if you would like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website, it's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Also follow me on Instagram, it's Narc Survivor YouTube. I'm uploading some pictures and videos from my trip last year to Taiwan, where you can see that I elevated to a height of 3,500 meters above sea level for the first time on foot. You can see all of that on there. Follow me, Narc Survivor YouTube and Instagram. Alright, thank you all for your support, and you all have a great day wherever you are, and I will talk to you in another video very soon.